Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Viscera Cleanup Detail. Yes, the fall season may have officially ended, and it is time, as much as we don't want to let Santa in for his turn. However, maybe that doesn't have to be as bittersweet as I'd thought. I mean, the holidays have always been a time for comfy, but who says they can't also be a time for another flavor of creepy? I mean, there is, of course, the creepy contrast in having something go horribly wrong with what's supposed to be such a nice time, right? And we have received a frantic late-night call on Christmas Eve from the big man himself to clean up his workshop. He must have spilled a jar of jam or something, or maybe knocked over his inkwell, and Mrs. Claus is going to be really upset about the mess to his office. Well, let's have a look. In all seriousness, though, I do think that the winter is an underappreciated time when it comes to a setting for horror. I mean, the nights are long and dark, the trees are barren and dead. Can't even hear the tweeting of the birds anymore, all the animals gone to hibernation. And the thick layers of snow seem to mute all the sounds, leaving a truly silent night. There's a reason everyone likes to bundle up by the fire. It's because they're terrified of what might be roaming around out there. Alright, a janitor, age 17, apparently violating numerous child labor laws. Brief. The tragic events that unfolded at this workshop must in no way deter you from performing your duties in a manner befitting the company's reputation. Your work here entails cleaning up the horrific aftermath of Mr. Claus's unfortunate breakdown. This includes the obvious slaughter and any broken items and so forth. Please conduct yourself appropriately, as this assignment will reflect upon your permanent record and potentially get me on the naughty list. Fail to follow company guidelines and regulations and you may find yourself without a job. Once your assignment is complete, the corporation will take ownership of the workshop and any remaining items and employees. Oh my, is it being seized? Okay, company leadership like this is certainly bad for workplace morale. Nope, you shut up, I don't need you playing during this whole thing. I'm sorry, but I am going to need a silent night to be able to hear myself think. And to give some nice festive commentary while we're at it. Oh wow, that's really not burning up. Yeah, I'm thinking I may not even cut any of this. I might just kind of let myself go. I mean, after all, what else are the holidays about besides just kind of sitting beside an open fire, reflecting on the year past, and just kind of appreciating the warm coziness and not having to do very much. And of course, I do have to do something, but as I've talked about in previous iterations of the Viscera Cleanup Detail series, I actually do find a certain comfort in cleaning up and tidying a very messy space. I don't know, I've just always found something so satisfying about slowly righting a total mess. And of course, things like this provide a great opportunity to just sort of chill out, almost treat this like a podcast, and just sort of talk about whatever comes to mind. Speaking of this little image right here, I've always loved how chill this game is, and yet the picture is worth 1,000 words, isn't it? I mean, all this slaughter all around, Santa finally fed up with all these bratty little kids, and just an empty bottle of whiskey and a rocking chair beside the fire. I like to think that this part of the image came last. Alright, now, as we've learned, because I like to think I have become a bit more of efficient of a janitor in these videos, we know that we should probably take all the things that could potentially make more of a mess, particularly all these little elf bodies full of blood, and probably cremate those early on. That way we get all our blood tracking done early, and only then will we worry about mopping up. Oh man, he's really done it this time. Although the fact that he's not here, I suppose, suggests that he is at least going out for one last set of Christmas deliveries. Oh, God, do we really want him to? I mean, what if he's still got some of that whiskey in his system? What if he's still in that kind of mood? Well, suffice to say, there probably won't be any subsequent Christmases, especially with the company seemingly taking over the operation. Maybe a change of management would be a good thing? You must have been his absolute least favorite. Or maybe you were just the one who happened to catch his attention while he was in the heat of making his list and checking it twice. There we go. Seriously, though, I'm not the first to come up with the idea of having, like, horror take place during the holiday season. I mean, there's all kinds of movies like Black Christmas, Santa's Sleigh. They usually treat these things as a joke, but I don't know. I think there's potential in playing holiday horror seriously. I mean, we've got some kind of, like, horror comedies, such as a few years ago they came out with the Krampus movie. I don't know, I do think that spooks around the holidays, there's just a lot you can do with it, especially when it comes to the more mundane side of things, having to go visit family you haven't seen in a long time, family you don't see very often. And it's always around these times that, sure, you're grateful for the excuse to hang out with old acquaintances and friends and family and whatnot, but there are some maybe you rather wouldn't, and you find it's something of an obligation, right? One of my favorite stories, it still creeps me out so much to this day, was one where this woman and her husband were going to visit her mother and that side of the family for Christmas, and it was a side of the family that they really didn't interact with much. I mean, they were always kind of off-put by them. She described it as a sort of fake, sort of like plasticky feeling that she got from them. And for that reason and some other things, they just kind of avoided them. But here they felt kind of obligated, and they came out, and she said it was actually, to her surprise, more or less a normal night. They hosted the party in her childhood home, and it didn't go as bad as it could have. But then, as the night went on, they started to notice that, like, I don't know, everybody just seemed to be developing more and more of that plasticky demeanor. Not as passive-aggressive as usual, but just, you know, there was something definitely off about them, but this felt different because she just couldn't peg why. And that was really unnerving because it was weird, but not the kind of weird she was used to. And so eventually it was time to leave, and she couldn't wait to get out of there. But her mother actually insisted that she and her husband go upstairs to, and this is the quote that sends chills down my spine, to see the rooms. Her literal childhood home, nothing's changed in decades. We really want you to see the rooms. And it's just such a bizarre request. And so she and her husband go upstairs, and they're walking around like, okay, what is it that they want us to see? And they enter the upstairs study, and all of a sudden they're just hit with this smell of, like, rot and decay. She describes it as something that must have been, like, big, like, not just, like, when mice die in the walls or something, but, like, something, she said, at least the size of, like, a large dog. And they're looking around the study, trying to find the source. Everything looks fine. And after a minute, they're just like, okay, we need to go. Like, this is weird. So they make a show of just kind of waiting for a minute or two so they can actually act like they've seen the entire upper floor. And they make their way back to the staircase, and they look down, and at the bottom of the staircase, they say that whole side of the family is just looking up at them in full plastic mode. And they're, like, looking intently, like they're trying to read them for, like, some sort of reaction. But at this point, they've resolved to just kind of poker face it, just play it cool and say their goodbyes. And so they resolved not to give them the satisfaction of any reaction and just sort of left. Now, she said that because of the previous strain, that ended up being the last straw that caused her to finally cut contact. And so the worst thing is, like, we never get to find out what any of that was about. Stories like that they're always the worst for me, the kind where there's so many potential implications, so much to speculate on, but the whole situation is just so beyond the norm that you have no frame of reference for what that probably is. It just is a weird thing that happens in the void. I don't know, there's something worse about that. Like, people tell all kinds of stories about scary strangers. Something so much worse when it's family, people you've known all your life, and yet in moments like this you realize you probably don't really know them at all. Okay, so that's this area clear of bodies, and we can begin to start slowly mopping this stuff up, I think. Luckily, all of these machines are right around here, so we don't have to do too much pushing. Now, one issue we're going to run into is what to do with things like these sticks of dynamite. I mean, if we throw those in the fire, they're most certainly going to go off and probably leave a bunch of soot all over the place and or kill us. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Come on, you. Now this feels so much worse because I almost feel like I'm like that cleanup crew from John Wick or something. Like, not only are we cleaning the aftermath of some disastrous corporate adventure, and we're also trying to cover up a series of murders before the cops can show up and catalog all this. Although, to be honest, it does give me a certain amount of pride in my work. You know, the cops show up, they're looking all around, and there's just nothing amiss. Meanwhile, we know what this place looked like just an hour before. Actually, it'll probably take me around 2 hours to clean this up entirely, maybe more because of the commentary. You know, this really does illustrate something else about holiday horror. Santa himself. I mean, if you look, all children's stories have, like, horrific origins, especially European ones, like if you go back far enough. And Santa is no exception. But even if you just, like, take it at face value, if you look at this story objectively and not with a child's eyes, it's real creepy. There's this, like, old German, or I suppose Dutch man, who creeps around the rooftop of every house in the world at night, delivering mysterious gifts that could be anything. I mean, sure, it's sold as being a kindness, but just the idea of this guy creeping around in the dark, you have to leave offerings for him so that, well, we don't know what for, but all we do know is that he sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, he knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. He's kind of like God in that way, except he makes no direct promises relating to an afterlife. He's really more God-light, where you sort of... I guess he's more of a performance review. Wait, I made him sound not scary. It's actually really terrifying. I mean, as a kid, I always used to be just a little creeped out when I would leave out cookies and milk, for the simple reason that, I'm just imagining him, like, standing in my house, like, totally in the dark of the living room, you know? Plus, we didn't have a chimney, so I had no idea how he was getting in. I was told he was magic when I raised that concern, but that just made it worse. I was like, he has, like, teleportation? Like, how does that work, and how do I get it? And what does it look like? Can we capture it on film? Would it be wise to try and capture it, or is that me flying too close to the sun? Like, what kind of punishments does he dole out to bad little boys who actually catch him in the act? Does he take them and, like, mutilate them, make them shorter to become elves? If I'm already short, does that mean that he doesn't have to do surgery on me? Would that be kind of sick? Would I get, like, early access to presents? These are the thoughts that run through the mind of a 5-year-old. Really, I guess it's, like, sort of SCP in that way. Oh my god, that would be such a great SCP article. They managed to capture Santa. And so not only are they like, all right, we want some answers, but they also probably want to know, like, they probably also want to, like, thank him for cool gifts they received. Maybe demand something that they felt they missed out on. But more importantly, they're just going to want to know how exactly he works. Yep. But yeah, Santa's creepy. Like, just as a concept, he's so creepy. He's the kind of thing that, like, only isn't creepy if you accept them from the uncritical lens of a child who's getting free stuff. And what if he just decided to snap one day, right? I mean, that's kind of the reality we're seeing here. Who knows what he's getting up to while he goes house to house on this night in particular. But I mean, what would happen if one day he just decides, like, you know what? Every one of these gifts is a pipe bomb this year. Oh my god, the world population would shrink overnight. Also, does he only deliver to Christian children? Because they always say he delivers to all the good little boys and girls in the world. But that would be only Christians, right? Which is like, what, like, is it like a third of the population or something? Maybe more or less, depending on, like, the era? Oops, I forgot you were there. I mean, I suppose that probably cuts down on his workload substantially. Makes it seem at least a little bit more realistic, although, yeah, for a given value of realistic. Okay. What about kids that, like, lose their faith later on? Like, if you... Okay, can you actually test... Can you test if Santa is real by renouncing your Christianity? Like, if he stops bringing you gifts, then that means that he's not real, or that Christianity isn't real? Or if you convert to Christianity and you get stuff under your tree that year, that means that Christianity is real. Is real. Alright, hold on to that thought. I think we're onto something here. And I used to be so creeped out by those old, like, claymation specials from the 60s. I mean, the animation style itself, I should be picking these up on their own, actually, or in a bucket. The animation style itself was enough to creep me out, and although I never wanted to miss seeing them every year because they were so satisfying and entertaining, I don't know, they were always really unnerving to me, the way these characters, like, wobble their heads around and the eyes shake in their sockets. They're actually really expressive for the models. But there was one in particular, I think I actually... Here we go. I think I actually made a video about this a couple Christmases ago, before the channel really took off. But Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, right? Now, that special has a lot of things wrong with it in retrospect. Chief among them being the fact that Santa is like a pro-bullying, like, eugenicist? Hello, what's going on here? Oh my god, Santa telltale-hearted this thing! Oh, why did he feel the need to hide these? Hang on, wait, I actually have to sort through this to find out how many bodies this is. I guess we'll go by heads. 1, 2, 3. 3 elves under the floorboards. Was he, like, particularly ashamed of them in particular? Oh, Santa, why'd you do it? Alright, I think the way to do this... I think we can probably... Oh no, I'm breaking something. I think we can probably fit them all in a single bucket, or in a single crate. I think that'll be the best way to go about this. But what was I saying? Oh, right. So... Santa was like a pro-bullying eugenicist, and I'm not exaggerating in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like, this child is born with physical defects, and his immediate reaction is to shame the parents for spawning such a monstrosity. And he's not even, like, physically disabled or anything. He's just got that glowing red nose. He literally enforces bullying, like, during the reindeer games. Oh, no. And he's just, like, such a piece of crap in this special. It's unreal. I was shocked when I rewatched it again. And, of course, like, as we all know, he loves Rudolph again as soon as he proves his utility to his corporate enterprise. But that's not even the worst thing about that special. The worst thing about that special is the abominable snowman. And it didn't really scare me as a kid for some reason. It actually scared me more when I watched it as an adult. I mean, they actually properly build up this threat. I was surprised. I mean, he's introduced, like, from very early in Rudolph's life, showing as something that they occasionally just have to, like, take cover from, like some kind of natural disaster. It's treated as a force of nature. You hear that otherworldly howl. It is so terrifying to listen to, echoing over the mountaintops in the middle of a blizzard, and everyone has to scatter and hide while this huge thing, at first we only see its feet taking up the entire frame, just stomps through the scene. You really feel like the fear that all the other characters, including Santa, have for this thing. And then, once they're out on the road, like, it really almost feels like a survival movie. I mean, they meet this prospector, they form a team, but something about the snow in this claymation special, it feels properly deadly. I mean, when it starts snowing, the way the sound is done, the way those flurries just cover the screen, like, it feels like a brutal winter. It is exceptionally well animated for what they had to work with. I actually appreciate it a lot now. Alright, can we fit one more? But as they're going through, they are repeatedly intercepted by this thing, and sometimes they have to hide, sometimes they have to run. And I'll never forget the moment where we finally get a clear look at this beast. It just all of a sudden rapidly climbs up over an entire mountaintop, showing the absolutely colossal scale of this thing. And it does like a fast zoom in as it roars. It opens its mouth wide, its eyes go all googly and flying all over the place. I can't believe, like, in the 60s they decided to show this to, like, little babies. And I love them for it. It was honestly such a special part of holidays growing up. Like, when they started showing those specials on TV, that was how you knew, like, it's here, man. The Christmas season is here. And I know I made a lot of jokes during, like, the Halloween special about how, like, September through November, that is spooky season, and then and only then can Santa stick his fat nose in our time. But I really do like it for different reasons. Maybe Halloween should try doing Christmas from now on. Maybe somebody should make a movie about that. They should do it in stop-motion style, so it's, like, relevant. Hang on, write this down. I'm gonna be rich. Alright, now, there's a bunch of gifts that will never go out, and honestly, probably for the better. It's very important to take things methodically, I find, in this game, because there's so many things which can, like, re-messify a place. And that's kind of the cool thing about these job simulator-style games, is that, yeah, they're relaxing to take your time, but you do, as with any job, sort of develop a shorthand. You develop a process that makes things a lot easier and more efficient. There's really right and wrong ways to do it, and even though you'll eventually get there, so I always feel that in any long-term goal, there's got to be short-term goals along the way, and in this, the short-term satisfaction comes from executing certain cleanups properly. Eventually, we're going to dump out one of these buckets, or we can even just get like a plain one from the other side. But it's very good to keep track of these things while you go, so that you don't... Where'd the other one go? Well, oh, there it is. It's important to keep track of these things while you go so you don't end up with a lot to search for later. Now, I believe when I knocked that other elf off the shelf, that I heard the sound of an ornament breaking. And if I remember rightly, yep, broken ornaments do for some reason contain liquid. So we've got to clean those up. And these will go straight over to here. Because I suppose the company does have to keep at least a log of which employees were prematurely, unplanned terminated. These boards look like they'll take a while to burn, but they did touch the bodies and they are evidence, so... Yeah, more kindling for the fire, I suppose. It's probably all that's going to fit for now. Now let's start on this office. I don't remember. Did we clean up all the bodies? Well, we got this one. Let's get another bucket. Oh, wow. Lots of failures. Yep. Yep. This is probably going to be like the first one that's mostly unedited. I've done other Viscera cleanup details before because it's so satisfying and I feel like it fits so well with the channel. But this one, I feel like, you know, we've got the cozy space contrasting with the horrific scene within. We've got the light of the warm fire. It really is just Christmas incarnate. Well, if you're someone like me, maybe. I do like the idea of doing, like, dark twists on lighthearted entertainment, especially when that lighthearted entertainment is pretty dark to begin with when you think about it. And, you know, I've already talked about that, but it really bears repeating in a situation like this. All this TNT and dynamite around, this guy was up to some bad stuff even before. Look, he's got a shotgun and everything. Oops. Maybe for hunting caribou, if we're being optimistic. It's times like this, seeing those elves under the floorboards, that I do have to think about the fact that it's been about 400 or 500 years since anyone's seen Mrs. Claus. Maybe she's hanging out with Shelley Miscavige or whatever her name is. It would be a bit of violation of professional conduct. However, maybe we could read some of these Christmas lists. Mr. Santa Claus, Happy Christmas. This year, I want the new Arachnid Boy comic, a new motorbike, a new archery set, a new 58-inch TV, a killer falcon like the one Gunter has, a new stereo to make the butler mad, and a big tin of chocolate caviars. But the red ones, not the crappy purple ones you gave me last year. Blech. I've been very good and only kicked people at school this year, and the butler and that man at the carnival. But that was only one time, except for the clown at my birthday fair. Timothy Crewley. Well, Timothy, unless Santa is on his way to your house right now and still in his pissed-off mood, I'm going to put this in, honestly, probably the best place for it. Count yourself lucky he doesn't remember. Dear Santa Claus, it was my birthday Friday. Mommy got me only 23 presents and a soccer field cake. I hate her. I said you were better. I want 23 steak pies, 12 ice creams, 18 trays of reindeer chocolates, 3 boxes of fudge, a pair, 5 computers with conscription, 3 brown ops, and a Nitro Genie go-kart. 55 fries, 55 taters, 55 wings. Those who don't watch I Think You Should Leave think I just suffered a stroke. Dear Santa, I want a new Playbox 180 and a new Y-Phone 732S and the new Racerman car driver game. I also want a new bike because the one I got last year is dirty, and I want a new windbreaker air rifle too. I've been good, so I want these. Billy Spoiled. Merry Christmas, Billy. Oops. You know, there is something so appropriate, and I feel like we really get to engage with the character of Santa Claus when we do this. When we just read these letters and just one by one toss them into the fire. Oh, this one's not a Christmas list. Urgent, Mr. Claus. It is with heavy heart and dwindling pocket that we regret to inform you that you are being sued in the amount of $250,000. The claims are as follows: destruction of property, damages, emotional suffering, public disturbance, and obscenity. Apparently, your reindeer defecated across a house or houses as they pass by the area. For full claims and details, please read thoroughly pages 5 through 49. Yours, Dickberg and Sons. So this wasn't just a snap-in-the-moment thing. You know, the stressors of life had been piling up one by one for centuries. We walked into a regular taxi driver and or First Reformed situation. Final notice. Mr. Claus, it is with great regret that I find myself forced to write this correspondence once more. As our investigation determined, the atrocious conditions which you force upon your elven brethren must cease immediately. The low pay, incredibly long work days, the lack of holidays, it's inhuman. If we at the Union do not see radical changes in the next 3 weeks, we will be forced to pursue legal channels. And then, sir, you shall see that the full fury of the elves is not so small. Good day, Tina Littleton, Secretary General. This little guy's unionized. I suppose it's about time. Dear brother, I'm in jail again and need bail money. I was caught whipping children in the streets. It's this one town. They're always trouble. I know you told me not to go out at Christmas, but why must you have all the fun? I'm so bored. I hope you send an elf with the money soon. I do like elves. So fragile. Remember, you owe me one for that Russian mafia incident. Your brother, Krampus. Krampus having that accent is not correct. It's just kind of like, you know, a literal brother saying they're in jail again and needing bail money is just where my mind immediately went, and I never adjusted from there. Mr. Claus. Yuletide greetings, Mr. Claus. I represent a select group of people with great gift-giving ambitions. The Ku Klux Claws are looking for more people with your prominence to join us. We can show you great things, lead you to greater profits, assist you in labor management, or grant you access to specialized equipment. We await your response. In Snowing Giving, Anointed, Sprig, and Clean, KKK. David Duke is resorting to more and more desperate measures. Dear Mr. S. Claus, invoice December 5th. Your total for this month comes to a whole heck of a lot. Yeah, so he was at the end of his rope, and, well, I guess all this was the final straw. Just one more. Dear Mr. Claus, I have in my possession video footage, recorded in infrared, of you, along with your gang, entering one of my premises via the fireplace. The footage also shows littering and you personally removing my valuable property, milk glass and confectionery items. At present, I am preparing to forward this evidence to local authorities unless I receive compensation from your organization in the sum of no less than $100,000. I've generously decided to give you until Monday to complete this transaction, or face the consequences for your transgression. He was being blackmailed. For technically breaking the law, but also it's his thing, man. Okay, so I changed my tune. Santa never forgets. He's made his list and he's checked it twice. He's made his decision. He is coming for these people. Oh, wow, look, we can actually ooh, we can see outside! Oh, light burning at the lantern at the outhouse? Santa uses an outhouse? What is... ooh, this... Oh, no. I keep trying to maneuver it, but... okay, we gotta hold down left click. Is this like somebody's scalp? Well, whatever. It's organic material. It goes in the fireplace. Okay, I think we can just about finish cleaning up this office. Just gotta clean all this carefully. Oh. Scatter the shotgun shells to the wind. Oh, what is he, dabbling in voodoo dolls? And Molotovs? Yeah, these are definitely going down people's chimneys all over the world right now. We've got to get rid of some of these murder weapons. Thankfully, a lot of these props and a lot of these bodies are really small, which certainly makes things easier for us. So all these shotgun shells, it seems Santa was really ripping and tearing here. He was pissed. Used shotguns, machetes, knives, dynamite, Molotov cocktails. Huge freaking explosion through that wall over there. I wouldn't be surprised to learn he used his bare hands for some of these. You do not mess with an immortal. Such a happy place for so long. I have to wonder how genuine this this Santa ever was. I mean, presumably he liked his job at some point. No one forced him to do this. Although he did have bills to pay. He never charged kids, I don't think, so I wonder what his revenue stream actually was. Maybe he had some kind of contract with the toy providers. Toy manufacturers? Oh, wait, we can't crouch. Or I don't think we can crouch. How are we gonna get at some of these things? That's gonna be difficult. Maybe if we can get up on this desk, we can reach... There we go, that's how we do it. Alright, you up and out. Just one more note. Your invoice and receipt for the following items. Oh, you bought all this. You were planning this. You are absolutely planning this. Just imagine you counting down the days, knowing that it's going to be a red Christmas. You remember Robot Santa on Futurama? So weirdly enough, even as a kid, I had like a sort of weird respect for him. Hear me out, right? Like, obviously he was evil, and obviously he needed to be destroyed, but I always felt like he was like a more honest version of Santa, you know? Like, instead of that passive-aggressive coal thing, he just shoots a rocket launcher at you. Or like some kind of like, you know, genie-esque wish where he gets you what you want, but it ends up killing you in some way. I don't know, I feel like if you're gonna do the whole morality play thing, you've got to commit to it. You've got to commit to it. None of this like, oh, looks like somebody was naughty this year thing. No. This is my kind of Santa. Actually, the Rampage Santa is kind of best Santa. I feel like Christmas drives are also really creepy, you know? Because it can be like the middle of the day and it's already dark out, driving to some distant relative's house. There was actually a movie made about that premise, although it hardly counts. It's a movie that I highly recommend called Dead End, about this family that ends up basically traveling for Christmas and driving down what appears to be like an endless stretch of forest road. Okay, so I think that's this office more or less dealt with. Only problem, I can't see that last shell when I look behind the desk. I can't get a good angle on it, so that might have to wait. But we are also going to have to figure out what we do with this TNT. Now, I had actually played this map a while back. I think years ago I did this, and I think the solution that I ended up realizing worked is to submerge the fuse in the bucket. So go like that. These things will burn together. And we are going to watch it from a distance where it's potentially safe. Oh god, what if the bucket actually melts before the dynamite? I don't think it will, but what if it does? I can't even actually say for sure that this distance will be safe. For all I know, the blast radius is the entire map. It would certainly be realistic. Okay, I think I saw it go. I'm having myself a Daffy Duck moment here. Okay, it did work. It did work. And now the question we're going to have to ask is, are these things, like, I'll save these for last, but are all these presents and such actually, like, counting as garbage that has to be removed? I'll tell you what does count as garbage that has to be removed. This festive-colored little elf that was hiding amongst them. Oh my, imagine I realize that that's there, like, at the last moment before the police come in. And so you have, like, a slapstick comedy-esque scene where I'm trying to, like, make sure that the cops never see it. And all the hilarious hijinks that ensue. Of course, it culminates in them looking directly at it and missing it because of the colors. I'm tracking so much all over the place. I do have a theory that this game does occasionally just have you track something, whether there was anything attached to your boots or not. But that's that dealt with. Alright, we've spent a lot of time here, but I think any moment now we're gonna have to start moving into this area. So let's get ourselves another bucket. It's always a real pain in this game to start cleaning up the soot and the ash. Huh. Well, that's going a little bit easier. The only thing is that if you've already got blood on your mop, it makes it harder to tell how far along you are until you need to wet it again. There's another body on this table. I'm imagining Santa just like picking them up and body slamming them onto it so hard their head explodes. Part of the fun in this game is just imagining these scenes play out, because the level design is just superb in telling a story. You can almost feel the physics of everything going on. I mean, it's just immaculate set design. Knocking over everything. Okay, this one's probably just about had it. That's the thing. When a place is so destroyed and so dirty as this, it sort of feels like you're slowly like penetrating the level little by little. I mean, we wouldn't want to walk around through this and track it everywhere and give ourselves more work to do, and so we really do have to like push in this way. Of course, pushing in only does so much good when the opposite side of this wall is a murder scene. Look, these two must have been just on the other side of the wall when Santa burst through. Oh, we can see that there was a door here? Oh, imagine that. Santa's in here starting his rampage. He just opens the door to his office one day calmly, raises his shotgun, and begins the massacre. The elves on this side are like, what's going on over there? They're afraid to enter. They've got their little ears pressed to the door. And that's when Santa blows it open with a stack of dynamite. Horrific to imagine, but also kind of funny. Such is the way of this game. Yep. Yeah, we're going to want to get rid of all this debris. We want to get rid of anything that'll trip us up on the way over here. I believe... Oh, yeah. That was something that I realized way too late in the other playthroughs, that you can actually throw by pressing E. I'm just trying to pick these things up to get them out of the way. I don't know if I have to burn the stools yet. I'm trying to think of some other, like, creepy stuff that has to do with, like, the holiday season. I don't know, maybe it's just something within me that automatically associates comfy with creepy now, even if there is nothing overtly creepy about it. Maybe it's because I associate Christmas with, you know, just like sitting around in silence, appreciating the stillness of the outside world, because it's so cold at that point that nobody's really out there unless they're driving to go see relatives or something. And so you have a reduction in the usual traffic noise, the snow does its part to silence the world around you. It's just a more quiet time than you're used to. Alright, we did not clean up over here. Oh, now what did happen to that thing? Yep. Happy Stickles. I love how they're not just randomly generated. They do all have happy little elf names. Nevermore. I think that's sort of the humor in this game, is that it's all these like horrific scenes, and you're just sort of left to, like, in such a mundane fashion, put it all away. It's a joke because it's the kind of thing that you imagine in the aftermath of every, like, crazy slaughterhouse of a movie must have happened. Like, there's no way they just left these places like this forever. Should also probably start burning up some of these buckets so we don't have to do it all at once at the end. And of course, I can't really talk about utilizing like a winter setting for horror and not talk about one of my favorite movies, like, of all time, The Thing. I mean, that really... I know that a huge part of the horror in that is the remoteness, right? The fact that it takes place in an Antarctic base so far away from civilization, and the fact that it is so far away from civilization ends up being the best possible thing, not really for our characters, but for the world at large. A big part of what makes that movie work is just, like, the snowy setting. Because I feel like humans have this instinctive association of the winter with death. Because, I mean, historically, that's what it's been, right? You can't grow any food, you'll freeze just from being outside for too long. In some cases, in mere minutes. I don't know, it's just, it's such an inhospitable time. And yet, because humans are humans and we're really good at adapting to our environment, we come up with stuff like indoor fireplaces and all the cozy sights and feelings that come with it. I mean, just look at this, the glow that's cast over this entire place. It's just such a warm and cozy feeling. It's actually kind of like, it's kind of like the concept I always talk about of the safety bubble, right? I mean, I've always been very comforted by the idea of immense danger, and yet an insulation from that danger. And that applies so much to literal insulation. Being safe from the harsh elements outside, and not only being in a position where you won't die, but can actively be comfortable while listening to the wind blow, the snow fall, watching your driveway disappear from the window while you bask in the warmth of the fire. I think there's just something so innately satisfying to have defeated nature in this way. And now, with the holidays, not only are we defeating nature by staying safe, we're also actively defying it by having a really, really good time that we look forward to all year. Yeah, no, that is a middle finger to the elements, if I ever saw one. Let's go get another bucket. We're gonna need one soon enough. What else? What are some other horror stories that take place around Christmas? Actually, I do remember, even though I didn't particularly care for it overall, one thing that actually made pretty good use of the setting was a mod for Half-Life 2 called Black Snow. This dark shape that moves around at this, I think it was also an Antarctic base. But that one also made use of the darkness of that setting. In fact, I think it may have even been taking advantage of a time where the night actually lasts for like days or weeks at a time. And then there was this like creature, this weird organism that like only moves around in the dark. And so light was safety, but not only are you dealing with the seemingly eternal night, you're also dealing with the fact that the snowstorm you find yourself in just obscures all things. And that was an excellent thing to take advantage of. Okay, we've got more of these. Ever since that first one, I'm so paranoid now that there's going to be bodies in weird places. You see? You see what they do? Santa, while he was ripping these little elves apart, he just inserted little bits that look like all the other little bits and just threw them all over the place, making it so much harder for little me to clean this place. I hope Santa's appreciating what I'm doing for him. Actually, from what we've read, I'm kind of starting to think he's not coming back. He doesn't care if the police show up. He doesn't care what the police do. This night is probably going to end with him riding his sleigh at 100 miles an hour into a police blockade while Freebird blares on the radio. Or maybe he'll just have Rudolph beatbox it. He's definitely taking them with him. Okay, let's start cleaning this. I think once the blood is gone, that's like the worst of the potential screw-ups gone. Everything looking good. No extra hidden bodies over here. No. But my feet are a little worse for wear. Nobody shoved behind this. No. Gotta be thorough. Oh, come on. Anything else I should know about? No, thank you. The biggest challenge right now is just how we're going to get rid of all this stuff. The things that are too big to put in a box, but numerous enough that it's annoying to move around. You are impaled to the wall with the antlers of a reindeer. And just imagine the strength that's required, because there's no way Santa was standing right here and facing you. Unless he was, and this was truly close quarters, but I doubt he could manage that, no. I think he came barreling down this way, and holding it sideways just immediately thrust you against the wall, knocking you out of his way, probably pushing that guy down the stairs, trampling over his corpse as he stomped down, thundered into the chamber below. Oh man, the true crime novel writes itself. Actually, no, it doesn't. There's actually quite a lot of leeway for what you could do with this premise. Chief concern right now is how are we getting this thing into the fireplace? Well, at least it doesn't leave bloodstains. Look, the scalp is actually still attached to it. All right, in you go. And you can never have too many buckets. You can have too many severed limbs, though. Actually, one might say that reducing the number of severed limbs is the entire reason I'm here. But yeah, there's kind of a disappointing lack of, like, holiday horror movies. I mean, I watched one, like, years ago called, like, Santa's Sleigh. But it's pretty much just, like, a goofy slasher film made for no budget, and it's just like, what if Santa killed people? I can't remember why he started doing it. There was, like, a reason he started doing it, or... You know what it was? Actually, it was a pretty inventive premise. I could be remembering this entirely wrong. This could be my own little creative writing project right here, but I'm pretty sure he was, like, always evil, but for the past, like, 500 years or so, he had been, like, under a curse or something that made him be nice and deliver presents instead of death. And this just happened to take place on the year when that curse, like, wore off, when the warranty expired. Credit where credit is due. That's a pretty clever premise. But then you got, like, Krampus and all these other legends that are, like, more or less the same thing as Santa, but so much darker. I'm telling you, European folklore goes really, really hard. They hated their kids, I think. And a lot of them are German, which also explains a lot. Okay, we need a bucket, but the problem is you're on stairs, which complicates this. So let's just hoist you up one by... Oh... This is the reindeer stable. Well, at least 3 reindeer, in fact, were not pulling his sleigh tonight. Well, at least that means... I guess that means that they won't be involved in Santa's inevitable suicide by cop. Can Santa die? He's immortal, but can he be killed? That's the real question, and it's a question I've asked myself my entire life. If you kill Santa, do you gain his powers? Is it like Highlander? Are there other Santas, and if he kills those Santas, he becomes more powerful? All this stuff keeps me up at night. Alright, let's just... I love how when you pile a lot of bodies into these things, they actually feel, like, appropriately heavy. It's so much weightier. Well, there you go. According to Audacity, I've been recording for just over an hour at this point. Of course, it's less than that when you factor in, like, setup and pauses. There we go. You know, I've been thinking about that story I told before since the very beginning, and yeah, I do think there's just so much potential in holiday horror simply stemming from cabin fever. Having to interact with those relatives you don't often see and don't particularly care to. Especially if there's a large gap of time between now and the last time you saw them. You know, finding out what's new can be a horrifying experience all its own, can't it? I think I'm just gonna, like, slowly start bringing these things over so I don't have to do it all at once. But there's probably going to be also, like, a lot of big goodies down there. I mean, you see the size of those antlers? I can't even fathom just what it was that Santa actually must have done to them. I mean, they're huge. Absolutely huge, the strength that this guy must possess. That's why I really feel like people should be a lot more afraid of Santa. Look, what did he do to them? I don't see any ash or soot marks. There's dynamite here, but there's no evidence that any of it actually detonated. I'm led to assume that he tore these giant beasts apart with his bare hands. Yep. Well, they're dead now. Are Santa's reindeer supernatural? I'm actually not sure. I mean, they exist in real life, as every kid was shocked to learn. But of course, the flying is all on him. I guess it depends on whether that was a property of the reindeer themselves, or if it's something that he's doing to them. I guess that could help to explain why Santa was able to kill them. Like, maybe they don't have any power unless he grants it to them. But then there's the question of them still being friggin' reindeer. Like, they're incredibly strong. Much stronger than a man. Well, much stronger than most men. I'm pretty sure Steven Seagal could take one. I'm pretty sure Steven Seagal would say he could take one. See, now, this guy, Employee of the Month. He had the decency to shove himself entirely into the feed bucket. Which saves us a whole lot of trouble. If anybody's up for a promotion, it's this guy. I see a future for him at this company. For example, manning the fireplace. We always need a few good men for that. Also, while I do think it's pretty fun to have sort of that, like, ironic lens that we look at the holidays through, where we imagine the horror that they would be if we actually adhered 100% to the legends that we base them on. I also think it's just such a cool contrast. It's the idea of taking a time that is supposed to be fun and cozy and just going in the complete opposite direction with it, and all the opportunities for creativity that entails. I mean, all this gruesome imagery going with, like, these things that we also associate with childhood. Maybe we should get another crate down here. Or actually, you know what we learned? This guy's showing us how to be more productive in the workplace. We learned that we can fit, like, a whole guy in here. Yeah, that's right. Anyone dismembered, just shove them in a feed bucket. And that's all the storage you'll ever need. Perfect. Yeah. There's always a gamble when you're mopping up. Like, do I go for that one last thing, or will it just be a big old blood smear? I always tend to lose that bet. Oh, but you know what? You guys are probably going to leave blood smears as well. And unfortunately, the buckets in this game aren't really made for things of your size. We'll have to see if we can't fit you. Is there room for one more? Oh, this might be pushing it. But maybe if we, like, lay you across the top? No. Come on now. There we are. I don't trust this. I don't trust this one bit. Here, no, it's angling towards me. At this point, at a certain point, for how careful you have to be, it is literally easier just to do 2 trips. But yeah, what are some other good topics to talk about? I mean, the holiday season. There's a lot of horror things I could talk about, but I want to keep it. I want to keep it festive. I want to keep it in the holiday spirit. Holiday spirit. Charles Dickens did it right. With the ghosts of Christmas past, future, and present. Especially the one that comes rattling chains in the night. Like, that is an actual Christmas horror story. Even if it does have, like, a wholesome conclusion. It certainly doesn't have a wholesome leading up to that point. Not to mention, the one that, the scene that most adaptations delete, which is right after when the Ghost of Christmas way, way future shows up. And they end up having to go to the future to fight Skeletrex and his hordes of bonies. Now, the Bone Brigade is a very real threat, and it's honestly outrageous that the studio made Charles cut all that. So, next order of business is gonna be the dead caribou. Are caribou and reindeer the same thing? I've never actually been pretty clear on that. I guess we try bringing one of the big buckets down here. We'll just see. We'll just see, and maybe if we angle it properly, you're going in the fire to reduce the risk of mishaps. Maybe we can get something done. And this is just the gore. I haven't even, like, really begun to clean up the rest of this stuff yet. Alright, let's start with the biggest. I love how that leg is actually, like, physical. Yeah, no, you're we can sort of angle you in there. We can't hold a lot, but we can do something. That looks positively delicious, doesn't it? I mean, I doubt you can buy reindeer meat in stores. I doubt the things are farmed like cows, but that looks beautifully tasty. I'm just imagining all the sauces I would throw on that. Alright, and we can just stack one on top, wedge it just enough around the hitbox of the ledge that this should all stay together. It's going to be a little bit time-consuming, but that is the way to get it done. It's a Christmas miracle, you guys. I'm just imagining I find like a handful of survivors hidden under the other floorboards, the ones who survived Santa's wrath, and we have ourselves a nice little reindeer Thanksgiving right here at the toy table. Maybe I'm just desperate to find something good in this, you know? Maybe part of me, even for as much as I laugh at the ridiculousness of this, I still want to find some sort of holiday cheer in the middle of this. So much so that I'm seeing it in places where it isn't. Screw it. You know what? I think I'm going to Alt-Tab out, and I think I'm actually motivated to Alt-Tab out and see if I have any more stories that take place at Christmas saved. I have literally like thousands and thousands of stories saved from the years I've been collecting them, and it's so hard to find a good Christmas story in there. Or, I assume I have yet to actually F3 to find that out, and I've never actually checked by that metric. Turns out, a whole lot of stories that take place at Christmas, but very few that directly relate to the season. As it turns out, real life doesn't write themed plots specifically to air around the holidays. Media has ruined my perception of the world around me, but I made a career out of it, so I guess it's not the worst thing. It did, however, inspire me a little bit with one story I read, which took place at the mall, actually shopping for Christmas. And I think it made me realize that if malls are liminal spaces when they close for the night, well, how much worse are they when they shut down for the season during Christmas? Actually, I believe the original Condemned game, oh no, the original Condemned Criminal Origins game actually had one such location. I mean, a mall that closed down during the holidays, and so it's just sitting there in the dark with all of these decorations still there. I feel like malls actually do become quite liminal around that time. If you're out shopping late during the season, early on, so there's not like as much panic and rushing around. And so you're just left in these big, dim, cavernous spaces while eerie Christmas music drifts in over the PA system. It's like a liminal space, but somehow adding that theme just adds another layer to it. Okay, how are we doing on all this? These pieces that are left, I think, are small enough now that they can be carried out, along with one of these. And I think we're just about nearing the end of our business here. Oh. You had gone, okay, you had gone completely under my radar, or over my radar. How are we gonna do this? This has a lot of potential to go wrong. Yep. There you are, and yep. There we go. That could have gone so much worse. There you go. That would have been the one thing that, like, I'm so convinced that I've done a good job, and then the detectives walk in and immediately spot you up there. Oh, that would have been so embarrassing. Boy, my face would be red. There you are. So what's left? Really just some shells here, and whatever little bits are left down in the stable, right? Where are those meaty bits? Ooh. No frickin' way. And all that was left was Rudolph's little red nose. Honestly, it's probably for the better. I mean, it's a good thing that this happened before somebody told him that he could literally be replaced by a $1 LED. But the rest of this should be small enough that it can fit in here. I wish I had some source of light. That way I'd be able to see if this stuff all left a stain. Judging by this mop, it seems like it probably did. So we're gonna have to be a little bit careful here. All these other things look to be okay though, so I think we're probably good. Okay, well then that should be all of the reindeer dealt with. Let's just get rid of these shells and all the little Nerf darts. Oh, that is so sad. The elves tried to fight back in the only way they knew how, huh? Man, why am I not snagging these things on the way out? Like, nobody's gonna know. It's literally my job to melt these things down. What difference does it make if they come with me? My brother, when he was young, you all know Dan, he's been on the channel a bunch of times and helped out in various ways. Especially if you've seen, like, the Urbex videos or, like, sort of the Walking Dead podcasty ones. But he was super into Nerf as a kid, right? And what that resulted in was a crazy arms race. And sure, at first we were giving him like these like Nerf pistols, which escalated to Nerf rifles. There was a Nerf crossbow in there somewhere. It got all the way up to like a pump up like air pressure RPG, as well as like mortars. There was a minigun in the mix. Oh, it got so crazy. It was unreal. But it certainly made Christmases exciting as new weapons came in to be used alongside the old. I remember when he got the RPG, we were all like gathered around it trying to figure out how to use it. He had stepped outside and he was a small little thing. And my cousin was trying to pump it up, pumped it all the way up to the max. He steps into the doorway, it accidentally goes off and it beans him right in the head and he does a little backflip. It was really funny. Oh no, look at this. Looks like Santa just kind of collapsed into the corner here when it all was said and done. The end of his rampage, reflecting on what he had just done, realizing that there truly was no going back now, before maybe reminding himself that that pile of letters is still sitting in the other room. There already was no going back. And so now he might as well finish it. Okay, I'm not sure if these Molotovs should go in the fire with the rest of this stuff. Intuitively, it seems like a bad idea, but I guess we'll try it with one. If not, we'll just do the bucket trick for the others. Oh, there's a sneaky little blood stain back here. Anybody up high? I should be checking upwards a lot more often now. Alright, any other garbage that I should be taking with me? I don't know if all these toys and such have to go. This probably should. I mean, it's technically a weapon, right? But as for all explosives, they're gonna have to go in the water. And that should, if I've done this right, be the last of the organic material. Don't know what to do with you guys. Was there anything else here? This is probably garbage. It's always the wrap-up part that's the least interesting, you know? The part where you're really just cleaning up the regular garbage. He started with the eggnog and worked his way up to the hard stuff, huh? Yep. But it makes an appropriately loud hiss as we throw it on the fire. So, that leaves the question of where do we go from here? Oh, maybe I can dislodge that? Yeah, it's sort of working. Can we get up here? Did I just see it fly up, or was that just water? Careful. Have you been knocked a little bit closer? Can we grab you? Yes! Okay, I'm super proud of that. Or at least happy. Oh, no. Get back in there. Get back in there. Imagine if one of these shells turns out to be loaded and it cooks off. Now we've really got to figure out what we're doing with you. And I think we will sacrifice this particular bucket, finding out how best to dispose of a Molotov. So you go in... You'll just break. Actually, that's better. That makes so much more sense. We'll save you then for the explosives, and anything that breaks won't ignite, right? And again, it's scattering your pieces to the wind, so maybe that will make cleanup a bit more difficult. Breaking stuff back here is actually probably smart. Yeah, because there's not too many places for it to go. Now, moment of truth. We're going to get rid of another one of these bundles. And remember, any wrong move, anything not terminating in the right order, and Santa's going to have a lot more unhideable evidence to worry about. Such as why his workshop is now a smoking crater in the ground with the body of an unpaid, underaged intern here. Did I leave anything up here? I left a tremendous amount up here. Oh, and there's some notes as well. Santa, my parents say I was good, so I could write you and ask for stuff. So I want the new Super Turbo Jet Racer car with all the extras. Also, I want lots of chocolate and the YPad 8. Dewey Water Patch. You know, after the other ones we read, this seems downright cute by comparison. What about the others? Mr. Santa, I was good this year, so I want a new pony and a bike and a new clarinet, too. Timmy Slewbottom. Maybe this job is getting to me. I read that at first as Timmy Slaughterbottom. That's what they used to call me. Hello, Mr. Santa. I don't want any more stupid books again. You must give me the new Ultra Mega Water Blaster Assault Cannon, and I want the big XX5 one so it will be bigger than Kenny's one. I'm going to fill it with acid from my daddy's shop and spray down old Mrs. Crouch's car. That teach her for calling the cops again. Now hurry up, Stephen Creeley. The thought that this kid could be lying dismembered in his room right now fills me with such holiday cheer. Okay, we can probably fit these shells in the bucket, right? We don't need to bring a whole crate up here. Doop. And you. Isn't this satisfying? Isn't this so satisfying looking back at all the work we've done, remembering that in the beginning we could hardly take 2 steps without smearing blood all over the place, and now... Well, now there's very little evidence left. The only thing really being that blown open doorway over there. You'd never know that only an hour ago this whole place was the site of a deadly massacre that killed dozens. Oh, right. Speaking of dozens, we should probably retrieve those little ID tags from below, right? There we go. I mean, I don't know. We could clear up all this clutter, but are we really supposed to? I don't know if it wants us to. We can probably take these up in the same trip. Boom. And boom. And boom. And those can all go in here. I feel like I didn't really talk enough about, like, Christmas driving before, because it's all the creepiness of going to see, like, you know, the country cousins, the relatives you don't often see and don't care to, but it's got that added mix of road horror, doesn't it? I mean, Christmas road horror, it may not seem intuitive, they may not seem connected at a glance, but it's actually a match made in heaven. I mean, the sun goes down so early, stays that way for so long, a whole lot of late-night driving in areas you're not really all that familiar with, but you maybe remember from when you were a kid. Dreading meeting that old aunt who always has, like, just a little bit too much physical contact with you, and it's kind of weird. And then there's the possibility of getting lost. It really is just like anything you can do with road horror is amplified at Christmas. Guys, go see Dead End. It's so... I won't say it's an amazing movie or anything, but it's certainly unique and original, especially for the time it was released in. And nobody's heard of it, so it's probably streaming on, like, Tubi or something. I've recently made the discovery of Tubi, and it is so good for just, like, random horror movies. And horror is one of the best genres for just kind of, like, you know, seeing what's around. That's sort of what I used to do at Blockbuster when that was a thing, and Tubi is really good for that. Netflix used to be really good for that. But I'm not here to have a battle of the streaming services. I think that's about it for organic material. I mean, some things that penetrated organic material are still around. Ooh. And there is a bit of a bloodstain up there. The devil's in the details. And Krampus isn't here, so it's the only devil about. This may not be a smart idea, but I do think I should start carpooling these explosives. Only thing is, given the physics of this game, the more these we stack, the more dangerous this becomes. Should probably start with the big ones first, right? Now's the part where we really have to worry. If these go off, they could potentially kill us, leave our biosplatter everywhere, but they'll definitely leave a whole lot of ash. Not what we need. I'm not even going to risk stacking you. I'm just going to take another one and look around for where there's more explosives. That'll be you guys. Imagine that... Here's a creepy Christmas thought that I'm glad I never had as a kid. Imagine you're like a little baby, you're like 5 or 6 years old, and you're excitedly staying up late waiting for Santa to arrive. And the moment comes, around 2 o'clock in the morning, you've stayed up, it's been such a struggle, you're sleepy and hallucinating. You hear it. You hear the thud of big boot prints on the ground outside, all the way down the hall in the living room where the tree is. You excitedly leap out of bed and start making your way over there. And it's Santa, all right, but he's not at all what you expected. I don't even need to say anything else. I'm freaking myself out right there. Let your mind run wild, huh? Oh, here's another thing that I might as well use the opportunity to talk about. So this is something that Dan complains about all the time, and that's the Santa paradox, and to be fair, it is a valid criticism of Christmas media. So in Santa-based films, the parents... Oh, gross. The parents never believe in Santa, right? The parents always say that Santa is fake, Santa's a fraud, there is no Santa. But in the end, it always turns out that Santa is real, that, like, you know, they prove it to the parents, and he's been doing Christmas all this time. But that presents a dilemma, doesn't it? Because if the parents aren't putting the presents under the tree, and Santa has been, then how can the parents not believe in Santa? Where do they think the presents come from? I don't know. It's been, ever since he pointed that out to me, when we were literal children... It's been something that's bothered me greatly. come on. Now that I've discovered the throw key, I just can't stop doing it. And I think the worst threat to us right now is the idea that the fuse might be displaced from the water by the smaller ones. Yeah, see, now we're really starting to push it. I think you guys, you can come up with us, but we're going to take you out for the final test. Now we're going to keep you safely over here. There's another one over here that needs to be loaded in first, and we don't want a chain reaction. There we go. Run, 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 run. Oh, this is nerve-wracking. I'm not going to be satisfied until I see them start to disappear in there. But they do take a little bit longer than other things. Meanwhile, let's have another look around. Yep. Always pays to be vigilant. There's always that one shell still remaining. Toss you in. What if that turned out to be, like, the one that was actually still loaded? Maybe he dropped it, his fingers soaked in blood as he tried to reload. And that's the one that goes off and sets off the dynamite and brings this whole thing crashing down right as I finish cleaning. Okay, you're done. As is this one. God, I have to undo that muscle memory. Where's that other bucket of explosives? Yeah, I do not like the way you guys are sitting, so you're gonna wait. Huh. And it's like a jacuzzi for hot dogs. Except if the temperature gets too high, the hot dogs explode and destroy everything you've ever cared about, including your career. Mostly your career. Probably also your life. There's no more viscera to clean. There is. There is. Oh, we need to look up more often. This is the death of this company if I don't get this. Thankfully, you're... Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go? According to this, I'm still holding you. Nope. One thing I really hate about this game is you can't, like, recenter your view or anything. I mean, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this? But that wasn't as painful as it could have been. Yeah, we did pretty well. Should probably check under these benches and such. Yep, there's a couple more pieces of the wall. Although, I don't think burning the wall itself is going to hide the evidence that it was blown through. I think you need a contractor for that. And he's probably just going to knock down the whole wall and start over. Oh, great. Just when I think I'm done, there's always a little bit more. That's the way of this game. Ah, are you kidding me? No, 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 no! Yeah! I didn't know that could happen in this game. Maybe it's specific to... Oh, are you serious? Maybe it's specific to this map. I suppose that could have gone worse. It didn't even knock down too many ornaments from the look of things. Although it did absolutely launch this stuff across the room. Oh, come on. I'm so glad that that didn't happen earlier. Then again, I kind of wish it didn't happen at all. Let's clean this down. Wipe down the fireplace as well. And here, ooh, candles. Can I satisfy my trademark and light one in the fireplace? We can light one on fire, which is notably not how candles work. The whole point of the wax is that it doesn't burn. But it's really just these little splotches all over the place that we have to worry about now. I'm probably going to end this soon anyway. I'm not going to bother trying to, like, burn all these individual boxes and bags, even if it does earn me a demotion. But we can at least leave the place better than we found it. I mean, maybe these tables work like some of the other things in this game. Like, look, I know that in the base game, there's designated areas where certain types of trash will count as removed. Like if you put boxes in the box area, that counts. You don't have to incinerate it. So maybe it's the same with these things? It's going to be hard to achieve the level of density that they were at before. Yep, on patrol for these things, since we never know where they might have fallen. But it seems like for the most part we're probably okay now. All the buckets are gone. A lot of this stuff is incinerated. A lot of gifts and such on the tables where they belong. And I really just can't be asked to bother with most of the rest. I want Santa to be remembered for the man he was seen as, rather than for the monster he became. And so I guess we owe it to his legacy to leave this place in some kind of presentable shape, even if it isn't necessarily accomplishing anything in preserving his, well, life. Dawn has arrived, and he has certainly been eliminated by the Ohio State Police by now, but I guess at the very least, we can keep his memory alive the way he would have wanted hundreds of years ago, right? And yeah, we're seeing some things, but not like a whole lot. Like, it's not reading 0, but it's not reading anything really, like, significant either. Is it here? I'm confused. What is it? Oh, I see this back wall. Okay, there we go. Well, that should be it. Oh, and there's a couple of buckets here as well we've got to get rid of. A couple of bottles of Yield eggnog. And thankfully, the sniffer doesn't actually seem to be too worried about the gifts themselves, so that's extremely fortunate. And I think we'll be ready to call it quits. I don't care, I'm done, and the union's got my back. And there we go, we were promoted! Now our occupation is sanitation engineer. Or is that what it was before? I honestly don't remember. You left Santa's workshop after carefully preserving every treasured Christmas item, as well as cleaning the workshop. Although you're not sure if you'll ever get over the horror you witnessed, at least you treated the tragedy with a measure of dignity. With your holiday joy now forever lost, you wonder if it was enough. Sure, while the thought of maybe one day earning Employee of the Month and picturing the shiny presents being treated with respect eases your heart, the morbid look on massacred elven faces will haunt you for years to come. Well, that's depressing / really funny. And it's only now I remember I actually could have snagged a couple of things from there if I had wanted. But it looks like I've already got plenty here. He really does exist. Well, if that doesn't bring you holiday cheer, I don't know what will. And if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more creepy and comfy content. If you have any ideas for other videos you think I should do, the best place to suggest that will be at the Discord, which I will link in the description. If you want to try this game out for yourself, that link will also be in the description. If you want to support me on Patreon, that link will be in the description. And as always, I will see you in the next one.